Okay, I think I will start now. Thank you very much for coming here. Sorry that I do not speak Spanish, so my speech today is going to be in English language, but you will have a simultaneous translation. And at the end of the speech, you can ask me questions in Spanish, and I will answer them in English. Before I start with my speech, I want to introduce myself. My name is Michael Knoth. I'm a free journalist from Germany, and I'm also a registered cannabis patient in Germany, working for Weedmaps, marijuana.com, for several German cannabis publications, for Sensi Seeds. I do the blog on the Sensi Seeds page, so you also can read some of my work in Spanish language sometimes. And I'm also contracted and to the ICBC. I want to help the ICBC to be one of the most important cannabis conference worldwide. That has a kind of a personal background, and I want to explain that later. Before I come to details, I wanted to tell you that I hold the speech today in two parts. The first part is about the ICBC, the B2B conference, with a focus on medical cannabis in Germany, because we have a new law in Germany which was implemented in March 2017. And ever since, medical cannabis is treated as a regular medicine sold via pharmacies. And the second part of the first part will be dedicated to the Cannabis Business Conference in Berlin, which is going to take place on April 12th and 13th in the Maritime Hotel in Berlin Mitte, which is in the center of Berlin. And the second part is going to be dedicated to the history of the medical cannabis law, and because it made the ICBC, it made anything about cannabis possible in Germany if we talk about the legal market. Before the medical law in Germany was implemented, everything was absolutely illegal, or if something was working, it was kind of tolerated. Germany is divided into kind of two parts. The north is traditionally more liberal when it comes to cannabis. For example, I live in Berlin. In Berlin, people do not get fined up to 15 grams of cannabis, and it's quite normal in Berlin that people smoke in public. If you come, for example, to South Germany, this is very, very uncommon. And so in Germany, first time ever, we have, since last year, we have the possibility, doesn't matter if it's in the south or in the north, we have the possibility to make legal cannabis business, to carry legal cannabis, and the whole law destigmatized the situation in Germany very, very intensively. Ever since cannabis is in the media, and cannabis is a real topic in the mainstream media, and cannabis also became a topic in the politics through the medical law. It was not only that medical cannabis became a topic in the media and in the politics, also the recreational topic is now being discussed a lot more than it was discussed before. So Alex Rogers decided, he's the initiator of the ICBC, he decided back in 2016, he decided to dare to come to Berlin and make a cannabis conference. At that time, he never knew that the law is going to be really implemented. At that time, it was only announced, and a lot of countries announce cannabis laws and never implement them. Or it takes years. In Germany, they really implemented it in 2017. And 4 weeks after the implementation of this cannabis law, we had already had the first cannabis business conference in Berlin, because Alex was organizing it back in 2016. And why a B2B conference? This is the question. Because when I meet people from the industry, from the investor industry, they are my English is a little bit limited because my native language is German, but still, sometimes I don't find the right word. I'm sorry for that. If the investor industry, if they meet people from the cannabis industry, they never met those people, they don't know how to deal with each other. The same thing is if the people from the grassroots scene who prepared the law in Germany. Of course, it were patients, it were grassroots movement in the beginning who prepared the law, and people from this movement also cannot deal with the investor movement sometimes. This is a big thing going on in Germany right now because there, of course, a lot of people, it's legal now. We want to produce cannabis, we want to give it to everybody wants to have it in the pharmacy, it must produce very, very clean, the standards must be very high, and the grower from around the corner, of course, cannot fulfill the standards. And the ICBC was founded to connect those two kinds of strategies, those two groups. On the one hand, we have the grassroots, and on the one hand, we have the industry. If the medical cannabis market and later on also the recreational market has to work, we need the knowledge of both. We need the knowledge from the grassroots movement, and we need the knowledge from from the market, because cannabis is gonna be, you can see that in California. I spent a few weeks in California the year before, and in Oregon. And you can see that cannabis is going to be a part of the normal economy. It doesn't matter if people who fought for it like that or not. It's going to be like that. And if the people who are very long in the cannabis business already, in my eyes, if those people want to do the step to a real legal business, there need to be some advice. And on the other hand, if the investors want to produce good cannabis, they also need some advice. And this is why in 2017, we welcomed a lot of investors from the USA on the ICBC. It takes place in a very nice hotel, and there's also a mini fair. So about half of the exhibitors come from the USA and from Canada, and the other half of the exhibitors mostly comes from Germany, some come from Austria, some come from Switzerland. And it's a very, very good opportunity to learn from each other, and of course, in the end, to make business. And what is really important, that the ICBC, Alex Rogers, he's trying to connect the grassroots movement and the investors who are willing really to invest in the cannabis scene, because in Germany, different, for example, than from Spain, the law is a federal law, and there is a lot of legal security for investors. Even in the USA, there is no legal security for investors in the cannabis scene, but due to that federal law and in Germany, it's all regulated by the health ministry. Every gram of cannabis is regulated by the health ministry, which is sold to the pharmacies. There's a lot of legal security, and the contracts companies make are mostly, the state is always involved, so nobody in Germany has a banking problem, which is also quite important. Most US companies have banking problems, and that's also the reason why we cannot import cannabis from the USA, although there are a lot of states which have cannabis, legal medical cannabis in the USA, but due to it's not a federal law in the US, we cannot, Germany cannot import cannabis from the USA, but we can import a lot of knowledge, and we can import a lot of, like, software. For example, there's the pharmacies in Germany, they now need special software, or they would need special software for cannabis, and this is something which does not exist in Europe, but in the USA. The most interesting country for Germany and for the ICBC, and I think a lot of attendees come from Canada. Because in Canada, medical cannabis is also legal on federal level. In Germany, medical cannabis is legal on federal level. So the German and the Canadian government 2 years ago made an agreement that importing medical cannabis is possible. For that, Germany founded a cannabis agency. Before any country in the world exporting, importing, or producing medical cannabis has to found a cannabis agency. Before the founding of a cannabis agency, no country is allowed to have a medical cannabis program. This is part of the UN Single Convention from 1961, and that's also a very popular excuse for countries who do not want to implement a medical cannabis program. So, I don't know, I think I have an international audience here. I think I also have some people from the legalization movement, from the medical movement. The first thing your country has to do is to found a cannabis agency, if cannabis shall be really legal on federal level. We are not talking about the Spanish model or other models where medical cannabis is kind of tolerated. For example, in Czech Republic, they also have a medical cannabis program, but nobody in the Czech Republic uses the federal cannabis program because 5 plants are tolerated in Czech Republic. So it's the medical cannabis program in Czech Republic is more something for the paper. It's existing on the paper, but not a lot of people use it. I think they produce 20 kilo a year. There's one producer in Czech producing medical cannabis for the pharmacy, and they produce on a very, very little range. So, what I said, the goals, as I say here, of the ICBC is connecting existing Canadian, US, and European networks, which is also very important. It's not only that the industry is coming there, also the networks is coming there. The DHV, which is one of the most successful legalization organizations in Europe, is also sponsoring. He's a co-sponsor of the ICBC, and the DHV in Germany, the German Hemp Association. They are in response that the audience, that the attendees is really a mix of industry and also of grassroots movement and of course of doctors. Because the first day is gonna be focused on medical cannabis. We're gonna divide our event in 2 days or in 2 topics. The first day is dedicated to medical cannabis. We'll have German doctors speaking there, we'll have German pharmacists speaking there, we'll have Canadian doctors speaking on the panels. We'll have investors from the medical cannabis scene speaking there, and also the importing companies, which is quite interesting because in Germany you have to found an importing company for import company for medical cannabis. You cannot just import medical cannabis and sell it as a pharmacy, because medical cannabis is always sold via pharmacies, but the pharmacies have to buy it from some other wholesaler. And within the last year, 3 wholesalers in Germany were founded. Until 2015, we only had 1 wholesaler. And in the last year, 3 were founded, and before 1 was founded, now we have 5 wholesalers who wholesale medical cannabis, mostly from Canada, and from some do it from the Netherlands. In the beginning, all the medical cannabis in Germany came in from the Netherlands, but meanwhile, we have 5 producers from Canada also offering medical cannabis in the German pharmacies. The second day, Friday 13th, won't be a bad day, I promise you. Friday 13th, it's just a nice date. We'll focus on the B2B topics. In my eyes, the most interesting panel on that day, I was really happy that we got the tobacco industry there. Because the tobacco industry we don't want to promote tobacco. This is of course, we are not into promoting mixing cannabis and tobacco. This is not the thing of ICBC. But the tobacco industry, they suffer from the same regulations like the cannabis industry. And from that point of view, we'll have guests from the US tobacco industry and from the Canadian tobacco industry who will explain to the cannabis industry people, to the people who want to invest in the cannabis industry, to the people who want to open facilities, to the people who want to open shops, and they will, and especially people who want to deal with the real product, the tobacco industry will give an overview how to prevent some mistakes they made, or how to circumvent those hurdles, which will be there if or which are already there if you deal with cannabis. And last but not least, after the party, or not after the party, after the event, we'll have a very nice party on the ICBC in Berlin. And DJ Mack from Cypress Hill is gonna be one of the main acts on the party. But before I come to the after party, I actually wanted to introduce to you Alex Rogers, who is the founder of the ICBC. And I have to tell you, in the beginning, I was very skeptical, because I did not know in 2014. I did not know, or I asked myself, why does Germany, or why do they make all those B2B events in the USA? At that time, Germany was not ready, but I contacted this guy, this Alex Rogers guy in the US, because I thought this is kind of an interesting idea, and I wanted to know what he was doing there. And he told me, which is quite interesting, he was jailed in Germany for cannabis. In 2002, he was jailed for cannabis in Germany. And which in the southern part of Germany, in Bavaria, if you are jailed for cannabis in Bavaria, it's not funny at all. In that part of Germany, you're considered as a drug addict, and if you are caught with cannabis, and they jail you for really little amounts, they jail you quite a long time. He was jailed for half a year, I think, and he decided, if I come out here, I will do something that people don't have the same experience like I have, and I want to fight for it, but I want to do it the legal way. And in the end, the ICBC was the result, because I'm also very skeptical. I come from the grassroots movement. Of course, I'm in the cannabis scene for 20 years, but I also experienced that we are limited. Our outreach is limited. We do not convince the whole society with the way we work for 20 years, even if we are the good people. And if cannabis is going to be a normal product on the market, we have the responsibility to start this, to get the right to get in touch with the right people, and really to watch out that it's not going to be taken over by the real big money. But still, we will not convince society without having money, without having the possibility to employ people. And this was my decisive thought when I said, okay, I think we also need this kind of event in Germany. It's not about getting the big money in and getting all the big hedge funds in and that putting out the growers. Or if you look from the other side, it's not about investing in. If you look from the investor side, it's not like investing in the stupid growers. This is prejudice. Both sides have. Those prejudice. You can hear on both sides a lot. But if you meet in a nice location and you have a good and a positive energy, both sides will find together. And and Alex invited me to Vancouver, to the ICBC in Vancouver in 2016. And I experienced it. It was a very, very good experience for me. That somebody from that cannabis was in the middle of society. It was destigmatized. We met in Vancouver in a nice hotel, and everybody was nice to us, and nobody was embarrassed because he was working for a cannabis company. Not on the reception of the hotel. The people of the reception, they didn't look like, oh, you go to Spannabis, or you're from nothing like that, you know. And in that moment, I thought to myself, we have to bring this event to Germany, and Alex and I, or of course it's Alex's thing, but Alex said, please help me to bring this to Germany, and I said, I will do what I can for it. And before Alex brought the ICBC all over the world, because the ICBC is not only in Berlin. The first ICBC was a small ICBC in Portland, Oregon, where Alex Rogers is originally from. Ashland, Oregon is a small town close to the Californian border, and the first Congress was just to inform the local people there. Then he started the second Congress because everybody wanted he had a lot of people being interested. It was sold out immediately, so he started the second thing in San Francisco. Same. Third thing in Vancouver, same. Because there's really a lack. There's too little of those events. He started the fourth in Berlin, sold out, big success. Then he went to Hawaii, and also same. And this is why we decided, okay, we come back to Berlin this year, and if you or your friends, especially people from the industry, have time or don't know what they do, on 12th and 13th of April, Berlin is a real nice city, and the ICBC is worth it. There are a lot of ideas we never heard about. And on the other side, there are also a lot of things we are very, very experienced in. And in the USA and in Canada, they don't have any clue about it. For example, it's the seed business. In USA and Canada, although medical cannabis is legal in some states for a long, long time, seeds were always forbidden. They were only doing clone business. So they have no idea how to make a seed company, how seed companies work. So we can really learn a lot from each other, and we should not be afraid of each other. I see this all the time here. A lot of people want to make the fast money, or they are afraid of going over the big pond, and they say, oh, I don't know. But we can learn a lot from each other. This is my main thing. We don't have to be afraid of each other. We have to learn from each other. And on the other side of the ocean, somebody who is a quite smart guy, who is a quite famous guy, he has the same convention as I have. He's called Henry Rollins. He's on the screen now. I don't know, the older people of you know Henry Rollins, know him probably as lead singer of The Flag. It's the old punk band, being very famous in the 80s and in the 90s. And Henry Rollins, only a very few people know here, he is a philosopher, meanwhile, in the USA. He is an author, he is a very successful journalist. He's hosting TV shows, and he's kind of considered as a philosopher. And Henry Rollins joined the ICBC last year. Because Henry Rollins, like he's convinced that you have to do something, but you have to connect the old, and I call it the new movement. You have to connect them. And Henry Rollins is deeply convinced of it, and this is also why he joined the ICBC. And Henry Rollins will open the keynote. He will hold the keynote. He will open the whole conference. And just a speech of Henry Rollins is worth to come there. Normally, if he holds a speech in New York, or he holds it in the big rooms, and it's sold out, because he really has a very, very smart approach. His approach is more the philosophical approach. I'm sorry for that. And I was very impressed when I heard that Henry Rollins also said, okay, we have to legalize cannabis in the USA on federal level, and I want to fight for it because the later cannabis is legalized on federal level, same in Spain, and the more it's tolerated, the more black money, the more bad money is coming in, because if the gray area is the most dangerous area. And so we really don't have too much time not to involve people. Doesn't matter in the medical or in the recreational business. In my eyes, we do not have so much time to legalize if we want to prevent, I call it Dutch or California, Dutch circumstances. Toleration, 20 years, now a lot of the business is in the hands of the mafia. It's not the old, nice coffee shop business it used to be in the 80s and the 90s. Everybody knows that. And that's the result of a 20-year gray area market. Yeah, and this is why Henry Rollins said, okay, I'm going to be part of the ICBC. So we really, Alex is really picky on the people who he invites, and as I said, it's not only industry. And of course, in the end, you know this guy? It's DJ Mack. It's DJ Mack from Cypress Hill, because in the end, in the very end of the ICBC, we'll have a very, very big party. Berlin clubbing life is very, very exciting. I don't know if you know that, but you can smoke in any club, and it's quite exciting. And DJ Mack also joined the ICBC last year because everybody knows Cypress Hill, are convinced of legalization, and they, at least DJ Mack, will join us on the ICBC and have the last party on the last evening. So I think it's really, really worth to come. So anybody of you who wants to come, come. And before I start the second part of my speech, which is not about sponsoring, not about events, my second part is about the history of the medical cannabis law in Germany, which made the ICBC kind of possible. And before I start this, I wanted to show you just a 2-minute video from the ICBC in Berlin from last year, so you at least have a final impression. Okay, so thank you very much for listening to my ICBC part. Now I want to introduce you the medical law in Germany, which made the ICBC kind of possible. It started 18 years ago. 18 years ago, patient Michael Fischer, he sued the Federal Republic of Germany. Michael Fischer lives in Mannheim. He's still living in Mannheim, and he suffers from multiple sclerosis. And he grew cannabis to lower the symptoms. And in the year 2000, he said, okay, I don't want to do it illegally anymore. And he went to the police and reported his own grow. And then he was sentenced, I think, one time. And the second time, he was acquitted. So in 2004, Michael Fischer won the first case, and the police had to give him his medicine back even at that time. That was the first step to legal cannabis in Germany. Then Michael Fischer, he wanted to grow the cannabis himself and applied for it at the BfArM, which is the Institute for Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices in Germany, who are in response for all narcotic drugs and for all prescription drugs. And he applied to grow cannabis in 2004 and 2005, and they never let him. They say, no, you're not allowed to grow cannabis. In the meantime, there were other patients who wanted to grow cannabis and applied for it, and the state said, no, we do not allow you to grow cannabis. In 2007, those patients won their first court cases, And then the government said, okay, we don't let you grow cannabis. We're going to import a limited amount of cannabis from the Netherlands, which you needed an exceptional permission for. So you applied at the Ministry of Health, at the Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Office, and they let you get pharmacy from the Netherlands, which you could pick up in the German pharmacy. The German pharmacy did not kind of sell it, they just dispensed it from the Dutch producer. It was not a sales thing officially. So since the first exceptional permissions were given out, patients were not satisfied with it because it was very expensive. From the beginning on, it costs 15 euro for 1 gram. So since 2009, more and more patients sued the state for cannabis, to grow their own cannabis due to the high prices. At that time, we had about 100 cannabis patients at that time, 2009, and I think 7 or 8 sued the state. Then the first patient won his case. At the second highest court in Germany, the first patient won his case. The second highest court, said to the Institute for Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices, they told him, that guy, you have to say yes to his application form. And the state did not want to, of course, and they never gave him the application. They went to the next high court, which was the highest court in Germany. In the meantime, another 4 patients won their cases. So we had 5 cases in the high court in Germany pending to grow cannabis, and they all won the cases before. But our government didn't give out the license to grow for those patients. And in 2013, the next case was won on the highest court. Our government still said, there will not be a single cannabis plant on private ground in Germany. So what did our state do? Instead of allowing the patients the growth, or to grow their own medicine at home, they said, okay, we are not going to import cannabis on a small range from the Netherlands anymore and do it by an exceptional permission. We will implement a medical cannabis law as a part of our medical system, where everything is possible, from reimbursement to that the cannabis is grown in Germany. Everything is going to be regulated, but there will not be a single plant in the German patient's household. But it took too long. Until the law was ready, 2 of the patients already had their grow permission because the implementation of the law took too long and the patients could prove that it takes too long. So 2 of the 5 patients received a grow permission. One was allowed to grow 10 plants, the other was allowed to grow 20 plants. Everything had to be documented in detail, really in detail. And as soon as the law was implemented, the state withdrew the 2 permissions. But the 2 patients contradicted. As far as I know, one is still growing, one is not, but this can change every day at the moment. And the state, of course, is reimbursing the people. In those 2 cases, the state is reimbursing the cannabis for the two patients. To withdraw the growing permissions, of course, the state has to pay the cannabis for the 2 patients. But the 2 patients are not satisfied because in the German pharmacies, on the other hand, since cannabis is a legal medicine, we have a lot of requests. There's never enough cannabis in the pharmacy, and we have 30 strains, and from the 30 strains which are officially available, mostly only 5 are available and 25 are sold out. And when the new law was implemented, also reimbursement, and I think Germany is the second country in the world where reimbursement is possible. In Netherlands, also reimbursement is possible, but actually there are only a very, very few cases. In Germany, I'm a medical cannabis patient as well. I applied for reimbursement in April, and in the beginning, the insurances, they denied the applications, mostly denied the applications, but patients like I and some other patients, they sued the insurance companies, and since October 2017, then I won my court case, and the insurance was forced to pay for my medical cannabis ever since. So I can pick up my medical cannabis in the German pharmacy, and I have to pay a fee for 10 euro, and I also can carry it among the Schengen area. So I'm allowed to carry it to Spain. The European Community has a special formula for it. And in Germany, cannabis is a narcotic you can get on prescription, or a prescription narcotic. And any prescription narcotic I can get legally in Germany, I'm allowed to carry within the Schengen realm as long as I have this document. That's a document you get. I live in Berlin. I have to go to the city of Berlin, and they stamp me that document so I can carry my medical cannabis within the Schengen realm, because it's a federal law and it's a part of the European law. So I just saw we are very close with the time. So the next document is about some numbers. Read them, because I just got a note that I only have 2 minutes left. So it's very amazing. Since 2017, we got 44,000 units of flowers were sold since March, and 15,000 patients get it reimbursed. About 66% of the patients who apply for reimbursement get it reimbursed. And if the doctors are trained better, because the doctors, they are not very experienced with cannabis, and they make a lot of mistakes with the applications. If you want to have cannabis reimbursed, you have to apply at the insurance. But the doctors, they make a lot of mistakes, and this is because they just don't know. They don't know better. They want to, but they don't know better, because everything is new. And also the documents the doctors receive from the health ministry about prescribing cannabis, they are not very good. So the doctors, they make some mistakes, and then due to that, some applications are still denied. I think if the doctors make a good work, we will have a reimbursement rate of about 80 to 90% from the next year on. And yeah, I think I'd like to go in more details when it comes to numbers, but I just want to quote the president of the German Pharmacists Association, what he said last week. He said this on Monday, this week. He said, the trend has been increasing from quarter to quarter in 2017, both for prescriptions and for the dispensed units. The pharmacy still had 4,615 prescriptions with a good 10,000 units of cannabis flowers in the second quarter of 2017. In the last quarter, there were already 12,717 prescriptions and around 18,800 units of cannabis. Cannabis prescriptions are thus at least partially arrived in the daily routine, which took only 9 months in Germany. And ever since, the discussion about recreational cannabis opened. Before, it was not an open discussion about recreational cannabis. Now the discussion opened, and to the very end, I just want to show you the consequences we already feel. We have the economical consequences are we have legal security for all sides, which is more than in the most US states. We have legal security for patients, for doctors, and for investors. We have the possibility of international trade. We have no banking problems. We have investors coming in the country, which makes, which gives people work. And we have an exchange of knowledge in the new industry, which is very important because it's an industry with the exchange of knowledge. It's a lot better than in the back the back room of a pub where you discuss with other growers. And there are also a lot of social consequences. We have a strongly increasing media interest. We have a social destigmatization, which is very important because in Germany, patients are allowed to smoke the cannabis everywhere where you can smoke cigarettes. So you can smoke cannabis in public as a patient. The police is sick of controlling people because it happens all the time that they control people with a prescription. So it takes a lot of pressure from other people also. We also have this political destigmatization I mentioned before. We have the normalization, which is kind of the same, but the destigmatization is more that people want to talk about it, and normalization is that that even older people don't turn their neck on the street if it smells like cannabis. That's a little bit a little difference, but not too big. And we also have the integration in the medical and the social system, which is very, very important. Reimbursement is the integration in the social system, because in other countries, especially in the USA and in Canada, it's not a part of the medical system. It's legal, but it's out of the system, you know. The insurances don't deal with it. You have special cannabis doctors. We don't have that in Germany. I go to my normal doctor I go to since 25 years, and she also does prescribe me cannabis. So I think this is a very good social consequence that it's not a part of a special part of the society anymore, but it's integrated in the medical and the social system. And of course, a nice economical consequence in my eyes is the ICBC. And also a nice social consequence is the ICBC is possible, and we try to push legalization of medical and recreational cannabis in Germany together with investors and together with the grassroots scene. Thank you very much for listening, and now I'm ready for questions.
Hello, I'm sorry my English, no, it's really good.
You can ask in Spanish and I...
Ok, cool. Lo que quería preguntar, por ejemplo, yo soy un chico que tiene la prescripción desde el 2007 en Italia, y lo que ha pasado en Italia es más o menos lo que pasó por ahí, nel sentido que al principio yo me daban el Bedrocan de Holanda y me tocaba pagármelo. Y luego unos años ya me lo pasan gratis. Pero ¿qué pasa? Que hay tanta demanda en Italia que ya casi no llega. Sería decir, te dan el cantitativo para un mes y luego te quedas sin medicamento para 2 o 3 meses. Y entonces quería preguntarte si, por ejemplo, me mudaría por ahí, si ahí yo que soy italiano podría obtener esos medicamentos también y el reembolso también.
Of course, if you are registered in Germany, if you live in Germany, you're insured with the German insurance, you have the right to get it reimbursed as a EU citizen. But you have to move to Germany and get a German insurance, of course. But then it's no problem. But as you mentioned that, for example, you can also have cannabis on a private prescription that is not reimbursed in Germany, for example, and I have some Spanish patients who come to Germany, get the medical cannabis legally in the German pharmacy and bring it back to Spain, which is absolutely legal and absolutely possible. It's not reimbursed in that case, but they can go to a German doctor, can get it in the German pharmacy, can go to the city of Berlin, get this document stamped and bring it back to Spain. But in Italy, I know the problem, and I think the best is that you produce more, because I know Italy's, or that you also import from Canada.
Hi, I'm Italian, but I'm living in Hessen, Deutschland. Yeah, I'm really curious to know which will be the first steps for our growers. I mean, someone that want to start the business.
Okay. Growers are not going to start the business for sure. We're gonna have 10 companies producing the medical cannabis from 2020 on. Actually, they said it's gonna be produced from 2019 on, but the application process is being blocked at the moment because the German government made very strict or stupid, in my eyes, stupid rules in the application progress, and they were sued by a German company who was not regarded in the application, in the process, and now there's a delay of half a year, and in March we will get to know if the application process will have to restart, or if the application process continues and there was only a delay. If it's has to be restarted, we won't start to produce before 2021. And if it's not gonna be restarted, I think we're gonna start to produce in the product will be in the pharmacy in 2020. Because now, after the application process is finished, 10 companies will get licenses to grow medical cannabis, but then they have to build up the facilities first. And then they have to grow, to dry, to trim, and this process with building up the facility will at least take 18 months. I don't understand you, sorry. Okay. If you want to grow cannabis in Germany as a company, you have to, the application process is done, but you had to prove that you already grew 200 kilograms of medical grade cannabis. You had to prove that. Of course, a German company could not prove that because it's illegal in Germany. So what did the German companies do? The German companies went out for partners in Canada. So all of the applications is kind of corporations between Canadian and German companies, except that one company who sued our state because they said, okay, we cannot fulfill the application rules, so we don't want a Canadian partner, we are a German company and we want to grow in Germany, and so we cannot prove to have grown 200 kilograms of medical grade cannabis now, and it's totally illegal that we have to prove that. And that's what the pending court case is about. The German company sues the state that he takes out the 200 kilograms of cannabis out of the application form. Besides the 200 kilos, you have to prove that you already grew 200 kilos of normal herbs on medical standards, not cannabis, but anything like tea. And you have to prove that you are able to run and build up such a facility. But the most points you get by proving that you already grew medical cannabis 200 kilo, and no German company, no European company except one, which is Bedrock, can fulfill this, which is totally unfair. Suggestion, actually they should restart the whole process, but then it takes again too long. So we are in a not too good situation. We can choose between bad and bad. Okay. There was one question?
How big is the German market for oil? Because I see that you're talking about the flower market, but how big is the oil market, since Colombia only exports oil? Is it CBD oil or THC oil or a mix of these? Which is the product that you?
Tilray just brought the first product in. There's a high demand in the pharmacies, especially the physicians. The unexperienced physicians, they prefer oil, they prefer extracts. because it's easier to calculate for them. It's just better for the unexperienced physicians, and they all really want it, but at the moment there's only Tilray. That's the only product which is in, and as I told you, we only can import Canadian products, because our federal government and the Canadian federal government, they have an agreement. We were hoping to also to import Israel products, and everybody was expecting that from April on, that we're gonna have Israel cannabis from Israel in the pharmacies, but then Trump prevented it. I'm not kidding. The day the Israel parliament wanted to say yes to this law, there are some articles in big US media. Trump intervened and called Netanyahu and said, no, please, you have to overthink the law, no medical cannabis exports to the European community. Because Israel also wanted to export to other countries. But that is done. You can read that. It's about 3 weeks ago, and it was in the US media. There are also some articles in Spanish and in German media, but most articles were in US media. Kind of Trump called Netanyahu and said, stop the program. Okay, so I think the time is finished. I thank you very much for being here. And anybody who has a personal question, most of the time I will be at the Weedmaps booth, and I'm happy to be able to answer personal questions. Thank you very much for being here.